guys, assalamu alaikum, it's Jenna G. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my kitchen for another cooking video. Today is Indian arrival here in Trinidad. It is a public holiday, so what better way to celebrate Indian arrival day than by having some homemade dhalpuri and curry to go along with it. So in today's video we're going to be making some dhalpuri and I'm going to be making some curry goat to go along with it as well. Indian Arrival Day commemorates the arrival of the first Indian indentured laborers way back in 1845, and they not only brought with them their lovely work ethics and their labor, but they also brought with them their immense amount of food and culture that has contributed to Trinidad's amazing diversity to this day. So some of the amazing foods that would have come from these Indian indentured laborers will include roti, and we absolutely love roti. There's all kinds of roti here in Trinidad. Today's video we are going to be doing dhalpuri, and like I said, we're going to be making some curry goat to go along with it. Curry is something, one of the spices that they also brought along when they came. So today's Indian arrival menu, dhalpuri and curry goat. So let's jump into the ingredients that we need for this dhalpuri. So this is what we need for our dhalpuri. I have my all-purpose flour with some baking powder in there, my split peas, yellow split peas, shadow penny, or culantro, some garlic, hot pepper, some vegetable oil, or you can use ghee. I'm going to be using some of this saffron powder, some roasted jeera or cumin, and some salt to taste. And we're going to need some water to knead with as well. So roti on the whole can be a bit intimidating, but I can assure you it is actually not as hard as it seems. And like with everything in life, once you practice it, the more you do it, the better you will get at it. So I'm going to be going through step by step. Hopefully this video will be able to help you guys who've never made roti to try and make dhalpuri for the very first time. So to start things off, what you want to do is first of all put that split peas to boil. To the split peas you're going to be adding some of the saffron powder that gives the yellow color to it, and I am also going to be adding some salt in this step. You can eliminate it, you can actually later on add the salt, but I just like adding a little bit of salt in this step as well, so that will be up to you if you want to add it now or later on. You want to cook the split peas until it is not soft as in mushy soft, but you do want to be able to boil. You want to boil it just until you are able to press your finger on one of the split peas and it presses through nice and soft. That's when you know it's finished. So once you've gotten to that point, now it can take some time depending on the split peas. What you can do though is put it to soak from the night before, and it will speed up the boiling or the cook time. So once it's nicely cooked through, you're going to drain it out and let it dry and let it cool properly. So once that is drying and cooling, you're going to make your dough. Now the dough for this dhalpuri is pretty simple. I am just using some baking powder, some all-purpose flour. You can add in some salt if you want, but be mindful of the dal that's supposed to be the star of this roti, and that usually has the flavor and the salt to it. So you can eliminate the salt in this part like I did, or you can put a pinch and later on adjust it with the dal filling. I'm going to go without it, and all you're going to be doing is kneading it with some warm water. Now the key thing to roti, to making sure that you have that nice soft roti, is the kneading part of it. Just like with bread and also the Sada Roti that I would have done some time back, kneading is key. So you want to make sure that you have enough of that liquid, that wet ingredient, the water, warm water, to knead it properly. Ideally the dough should be a little soft when you touch it, and that is exactly what you want. So once you have it done, you're going to be topping it or covering it, coating it with some oil. This helps to keep the moisture, keeps the softness in it. And you're going to be covering it with a damp cloth, or in my case I used a paper towel. You want to let this rest for about 30 minutes or so. So now we're going to jump back to the split peas. Once it's properly dried out and it has no moisture in it, it's cooled, you're going to be putting it into a food processor. So this is the modern way of doing things. Back in the day, I would have remembered my grandmother using the mill, but I don't have that, so food processor is the way to go. So you're going to add your shadow beni, your garlic and your hot pepper at this point, and you want to make sure that you process that properly. Now if you have a lot of dal, if you're using a lot of dal, doubling or tripling the recipe, you want to add just a little bit at a time. You want to make sure that all the split peas, the shadow beni, the garlic, everything is properly processed and there are no chunks in between your split peas or your dal mixture. Once you have it all nicely processed, it ideally should feel like sand is how I would explain it. No chunks in it, smooth falling. You can use your fingers to break it up a bit. Now let's just say that there is some moisture and it's clumping together when you finish processing it. That could happen, like with me, sometimes you might rush, you don't wait for it to cool out properly or dry out properly and some moisture gets in there. That's okay, don't worry, don't panic. What you can do is put it on the stove in a pan and let some of that heat dry out the moisture from it. So when you're finished doing that, you get that nice grainy sort of dal texture to it. Now once you finish processing it, once it has a nice consistency, you're going to taste for salt, and at this point you're going to add your jeera. Now I'm going to leave this up to you guys, the exact measurements for it. I will list all the ingredients down below as with all my recipes, but the measurements for the jeera, you can use as much or as little as you prefer. Everyone has their preference and how they like their dhalpuri to taste. So I think once you all have the major or the method, the directions and the steps to follow along, the exact measurements of the pepper, the seasoning, the jeera and all that, you guys can adjust it according to your taste. The next thing you want to do will be to fill your dough. So that large dough ball that we have resting, you're going to break it up into smaller dough balls. Now this part will depend on the size tower that you have or the size pan. If you are using a pan like me, it will depend on the size that you are working with. So form your dough balls according to the size you're going to be working with. Once you've got them in those smaller dough balls, what you're going to do is fill each one. So to do this, you guys want to pay attention to this part. You want to make sure that you put enough dal in it. That's another important thing. Some people love to see the dal falling out of the roti when they break it. Some people, like myself, don't really care for so much extra dal in the roti. So it really depends on how much dal you want in the dhalpuri to know how much you're going to fill each dough bowl. Open it out with your fingers and then you're going to cup it into your palm. Hold your palm like a cup wise. Put the dough on it, the opened out dough. Form that bowl or that cup, and you're going to use a measuring cup or a spoon or whatever it is to add your dal to your palm to that dough. Now at this point, you want to remember how much dal you want to put in. So because that's sort of loose, what you want to do is compact it. Use your hand, just compact it. Make sure it's properly in there, and then you can do if you want to add some more dal. If you do want to add more dal, go right ahead again. And just remember to hold your hand properly in that cup or bowl form to hold the dal in. Once you have that right amount of dal in there, you're going to use your fingers and pinch the edges so that you seal it properly. So you're going to fill all the others the same way, taking your time, making sure that the dough does not burst anywhere, and you want to squeeze it, pinch the edges so that it's properly sealed. So once you have all of them nicely filled, the next thing you want to do is roll each one out. So the importance of having that dal properly processed and very, very fine will come into play, and you will realize it in this step. Now if you had chunks in your dal mixture, when you roll it out using your bilna or your rolling pin, you're going to see it on the surface, and most likely it would have pierced through the dough, and obviously it will not swell if this does happen. And this is what it could look like. So you want to make sure that the dal mixture is as fine as possible, so when you roll it out properly in the dough, it's nice and smooth with nothing pasting through the dough. So you want to roll it out pretty thin. You don't really want thick dhalpuri, so you want to roll it out nice, and once you have it rolled out properly on a floured counter, make sure that your countertop is properly floured. Reason for this, you don't want the dough to stick and to burst when you do try to move it, so make sure that it is properly floured, so you have no chance of any dough sticking to your burner or your rolling pin or even to your counter. Before placing it on your tower or in your pan, you want to lightly coat it with some oil, and your heat, you want to play around with your heat. What I would advise is that you do one roti first to get an idea of the heat that you need for the rest of the roti. Now I'm saying this because each person will have a different type of stove, a different kind of tower made with different material, different pan. So my heat that I am recommending might not really work for you. Typical example, I had to help my sister with her Sada Roti some time back, and it was the same thing. So I was able to get mine done between low medium heat. Hers, you needed to play around more with the heat. So it really depends on the stove, the type of pan or the tower that you're using. As you place it on your tower or your pan, be sure to brush it with some of that oil or the butter or ghee, or a combination of butter and oil if you prefer that way. Once you see the bubbles, you want to flip it gently onto the other side. You're going to coat that side with some oil again. Now this step, sometimes it will swell once you turn it across on this side. If it does not swell, all you're going to do is just flip it back again, and it should swell once you flip it again. So of course, whenever you're making roti and you start to see it swelling, you get all excited every time. It happens to me every single time. So it's going to start to swell up really, really nicely, and when you put your hand on it, you're going to see it's a little bouncy. That is perfect. So once it's finished, got some of the little brownish color on it, you're going to transfer it across the cloth or something to cover it to make sure that it stays warm and stays soft. So you're basically going to do this for the rest of your dough balls that you have made, and of course enjoy and have fun with it swelling like I usually do every single time. So now that we have our dhalpuri finished, time to work on the curry goat. So we've got our goat meat already cleaned, just to season it up now. And to do this, I'm going to be using some of this JGM products hot curry. I'm going to be using some anjar masala, pinch of saffron powder, some roasted jeera, black pepper, salt to taste. You're going to be cooking with some vegetable oil, or you can use coconut oil as well. And I'm going to be using some green seasoning, very, very important in our curries and stews here in Trinidad. And it's just basically a combination of various fresh herbs, especially this culantro with some hot pepper, garlic, and any other fresh herbs that you like to add into it. So to start off with your goat, you're just going to basically season it up. Add some of the curry powder to it, a little bit of the anjar masala, some of the roasted jeera goes in there as well. Salt, not too much at this point. You can always adjust it later on. And you're going to add your green seasoning. You're going to mix that up. You can let it marinate for as long as possible, or you can cook it immediately. When you are ready to cook it, you're going to add some oil to a pot, and then you're going to add your chopped onions, your chopped garlic, and your chopped hot pepper. You're going to cook it between low and medium heat just until the onions are nicely cooked through. Then you're going to add in your curry powder. Now this step helps to release that immense flavors from the curry powder. So you're going to toast it up on low heat, stirring it to ensure that it does not stick for about 3 to 5 minutes. Once it's all nicely toasted, you're going to add just a little bit of water. You're going to keep stirring it. When that mixture starts to thicken up, you're going to add in your seasoned goat meat. At this point, I'm going to add some of the saffron powder. That is if you want more of a yellow color to your curry. And at this point, I'm going to increase the heat. I'm going to let some of that juices release from the goat meat, and I'm going to let it cook up a bit. So once all that juices, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes depending. Once it's almost dried up and just before the meat starts sticking to the pot or burning, you're going to add in some water. Add enough water to cover the meat, and you're going to let it cook through until it's nice and tender. Now at this point you have two options. You can use the pressure cooker like what I choose to do, it saves on time, or you can just let it cook, cover the pot and just let it cook through until it's nice and tender. It of course will take longer that way. Whichever way you prefer to do it, you want to ensure that the meat is properly cooked through, and just before it is finished you're going to add just a little bit more of the green seasoning. That's what I like to do to add some more flavor, and of course taste it for salt and adjust accordingly. The amount of sauce in your goat meat of course will depend on you. If you want more of a thick sauce, you're going to let it cook down until that sauce is thick enough, or if you want more of the liquid or watery sauce, you just cook it accordingly. Most important thing is to get that meat nice and tender. So now we have our goat meat finished as well, and we've got our Dhalpuri finished. So I hope you guys were able to follow along, especially with the Dhalpuri roti part of it. Like I said, roti making can seem a bit intimidating, but once you get the hang of it, once you check out the recipe, get your thoughts together, gather all your ingredients, take it step by step, I guarantee that you will have absolutely no problems at all. The one part of it that might be a little problematic would be that swelling part. But again, try one roti first and then you get an idea of the heat you need, the tower, you get an idea of how your stove works together with the tower and the heat and all of that. So just play around with it. So I think I would have covered the steps while going through the video with you guys in terms of how to make the Dhalpuri. Ensure that your dough is kneaded properly. One of the key things to getting a soft roti, you want to make sure that that dal is not grainy. Make sure everything in that dal mixture or that dal filling is properly grounded up. You don't want any chunks at all that can spoil the roti by causing it not to swell. You want to make sure that you put enough dal in it. Make sure and follow along with how to hold the dough in your hand, how to pinch it and squeeze it properly to make sure that it is properly sealed in there and it will not fall out. When you're rolling it out, be sure that you have a properly floured counter and your burner or your rolling pin is nicely floured. This is just to ensure that it does not stick and of course burst and some of that dal will be lost there. So guys, I think that you all should try Dhalpuri. It is Indian Arrival Day. If you don't get to try it today, be sure to try it out soon if you've never tried it before. And like I said, I hope this video was helpful in going through the different steps. And when you do try it out, please send me your pictures. I've also got the Sada Roti up. I will post that link down below and some other curry dishes as well for you guys to go check out. So I hope that you enjoyed this Dhalpuri and curry goat video, guys. It is Indian Arrival Day. Would love to know what is on your menu for today if you do anything special actually on Indian Arrival Day. So thank you as always for watching my video and for all the love and the support that you guys continue to show. As I said, try this Dhalpuri roti recipe and send me your pictures. I can't wait to see them. So thank you as always, guys, and I will see you all in my next video.